This is one of those stories that has everything. It's about how a team was born from another city's heartbreak, how it built what looked like a dynasty, watched it all crumble, and then, somehow, rose from the ashes to do the impossible. We are diving deep into the incredible, controversial journey of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
So here we are. After a season of just pure dominance, the Thunder finally reached the absolute pinnacle of the basketball world. They brought a championship to Oklahoma City for the very first time. But to really, truly understand how massive this moment is, you got to know the whole story.
Right, so you've got to be asking yourself, how does a team that literally wasn't on the map before 2008 get to the very top? Well, to figure that out, we have to rewind. Because before there was the Thunder, there was another team with a rich, passionate history in a completely different city. And that team? Well, of course, it was the legendary Seattle SuperSonics, a franchise that was just woven into the very fabric of that city for more than 40 years.
And look, we've got to be crystal clear about this. This wasn't just some run-of-the-mill team. The Sonics had serious history. We're talking 41 seasons, 22 trips to the playoffs, 3 conference titles, and the biggest prize of them all, an NBA championship back in 1979. They were a Seattle institution.
And then, 2006 rolls around, and everything just changes. The team gets sold for $350 million to an investment group led by a man named Clay Bennett. And the key detail? They weren't based in Seattle. They were from Oklahoma City. And right there, that's the moment the clock really started ticking for Seattle.
What happened next is, well, it's one of the most painful, most controversial team moves in modern sports history. It was a relocation that still stings in 2 different cities to this very day.
And if you were a fan in Seattle, this whole thing was just a blur. An absolutely gut-wrenching blur. Just 1 year after the team was sold, the new owners basically said, yeah, we're planning to move. The city, of course, fought back hard, even filing a lawsuit to try and keep the team. But it was just too late. By July of 2008, a deal was struck, and just like that, the Sonics were gone.
And the deal they struck? Oh man, it was just weird, kind of cruel actually. Seattle got to keep the memories, the SuperSonics name, the logo, the green and gold colors, all of it held in reserve for a team that might come back someday. But Oklahoma City? They got the real stuff, the players, the assets, even the championship banners from Seattle's history. It was almost like a ghost franchise was left behind.
So why did this all happen? Well, at the end of the day, it really came down to business. The team's financial situation got better almost immediately. I mean, you can see it right here in the data. The franchise's value jumped from $268 million in their last year in Seattle to $300 million in their very first year in OKC. That's a huge boost right away.
So the team lands in its new city, gets a new name, the Thunder. And right out of the gate, they have this core of unbelievable young talent. It really looked like we were watching the league's next great dynasty being born.
I mean, you have to wrap your head around this. On one team, you had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. We're talking 3 future MVPs, all drafted by the same organization, all playing together as kids. That's like catching lightning in a bottle. You just don't see that in sports.
And boy, did they take off. It was just like boom, boom, boom. 2010, they make the playoffs for the first time. The very next year, they're in the Western Conference Finals. And by 2012, they're playing for a ring in the NBA Finals against LeBron James and the Heat. The future looked golden.
The sky was the limit, or so it seemed. Because, as we all know, dynasties can be incredibly fragile.
And just like that, the dream started to unravel. It didn't happen all at once. It was more like this slow, painful dismantling. It all started in 2012, with the absolutely shocking trade of James Harden because of a contract argument. A few years later, KD makes one of the most controversial moves ever, leaving for the Warriors. And by 2019, the last man standing, Russell Westbrook, was finally traded, closing that chapter for good.
But here's where the story takes another wild turn. This wasn't the end of the line. Nope. This was the start of maybe the boldest, most patient rebuild we have ever seen in the NBA, all masterminded by their general manager, Sam Presti.
The plan was kind of nuts, but brilliant. Trade your big stars for a mountain of future draft picks. And I mean a mountain. By 2021, they had somehow piled up an incredible 36 of them. 36! That's just unheard of. They weren't just rebuilding, they were cornering the market on the future. And this took some serious patience, you know? You can see it right here. The first couple of years were rough. 22 wins, then 24. A lot of losing. But then,
You see that jump, 40 wins, and a spot in the play-in. And by the 23-24 season, the rocket ship took off, an explosion to 57 wins and the #1 seed in the West. The plan wasn't just working, it was a thing of beauty.
So who are the guys that made this happen? Well, it all started with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who they got in a trade and who just turned into a legitimate MVP. Then they absolutely nailed their draft picks, getting a game-changing defender in Chet Holmgren and a star in Jalen Williams. And the guy pulling all the strings on the sideline? Coach of the Year Mark Donyold. All the pieces just clicked into place.
So you take all of that, the heartbreak of the first breakup, the years of patient rebuilding, the smart drafting, and it all leads to this moment. They're back on top, and this time they're not letting it slip away.
And you absolutely have to talk about the city and the fans here. As Bill Simmons points out, the connection between Oklahoma City and this team it's just different. They're the only major pro sports team in town, and that creates this incredible bond, a real devotion that you can feel every single night in that arena.
And all that passion, all that devotion, it was about to pay off in the biggest way imaginable.
Okay, so let's talk about the championship season, because it was just perfect. They kicked things off with a staggering 68 wins in the regular season. Their guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, rightfully took home the MVP trophy. Then, after grinding through the playoffs, they made it to the NBA Finals and went toe-to-toe with the Indiana Pacers, winning it all in a legendary winner-take-all Game 7.
And there it is. 16 years after showing up from Seattle, the promise made to a new city was finally kept. For the very first time in their history, the Oklahoma City Thunder were NBA champions.
So when you look at the whole picture, it's just one of the wildest stories in sports, isn't it? From a move that broke hearts to a rebuild for the ages, it's unbelievable. It leaves you with some big questions, though. What's the real cost of a championship, and can a new legacy, no matter how glorious, ever truly heal the scar of a lost one? It really makes you think about the business of sports and what a team really means to a city.